Now more than ever, the FBI, CIA, and DEA are scrambling. They'll do anything to bring their targets into custody. In order to take down decade-long hackers, international cartel leaders, cold-blooded assassins, and the most famous outlaws in American history, government agencies are willing to pay the big bucks. In some cases, the price is hundreds of thousands of dollars in exchange for crucial information. In other cases, the number soars to tens of millions. But as the price grows, so does the danger. Is snitching worth it? Does a multi-million-dollar reward justify a lifetime in witness protection and the ever-looming threat of revenge? Only you can decide that for yourself. For decades, American agencies have been increasing their bounties on both domestic and international criminals. Typically, it was those working in the illicit substance game or those who committed violent, heinous acts who were slapped with the biggest targets on their back. And in turn, for information on these particular criminals, members of the public were offered juicy rewards. But in late 2019, we saw the CIA and FBI turn a new leaf. They made history, offering the largest reward to date for a cybercriminal. As technology has become indispensable, hacking, particularly Eastern European hacking, has only become more sophisticated. One of the world's most notorious hacking groups, Russian-based Evil Corp, has been on the FBI watch list for years. Now they are ready to take down its alleged leader, this guy, Maxim Yakubets. As told by the U.S. Assistant Attorney General, Maxim deployed two of the most damaging pieces of financial malware ever used and resulted in tens of millions of dollars of losses to victims worldwide. His international operation has reportedly spanned more than a decade, starting way back in May of 2009. Seeking justice, he's been dealt a hefty punishment. Charges of conspiracy, computer hacking, wire fraud, and bank fraud have all been laid. Even though the charges have been issued, Maxim is far from being caught. So, the U.S. State Department and the FBI announced a mammoth of a reward, $5 million in exchange for any information that leads to the cyber hacker's arrest. Any cybercrime act has the potential to be disastrous. They can take down companies, swindle billions of dollars, and steal innocent people's identities. However, a cybercrime is typically silent. The crimes of our next internationally wanted criminal were not. When this Middle Eastern man wreaked havoc in a number of American embassies in Africa in 1988, the FBI sprang into action. But this wasn't just an isolated incident. This man is known as the leader of one of the most famous crime organizations in the world. And he's not a lone ranger either. The man has been actively recruiting, even encouraging his followers to target Westerners traveling through a number of Middle Eastern countries. Taking down an organized crime syndicate or an extremist group always starts at the top, which is why the FBI is putting an unprecedented bounty on this man. His whereabouts is unknown, although some believe he's hiding out in Pakistan. If you thought $5 million for a Russian hacker was a mighty reward, this high-profile criminal has a price of $25 million on his head. That particular extremist group is largely based in the Middle East, but the group which Joanne Deborah Chesimard was part of had much more of an everyday, immediate threat to Americans. Her revolutionary left-wing organization was based and operated on American soil and brought attention for its involvement in a number of crimes from 1970 to 1981. One such crime came at the hands of Joanne Chesimard herself. She was arrested, charged, and convicted for her role in taking down a state trooper in New Jersey, among a list of other violent charges, plus bank robbery. The sentence? Life in prison. Just a couple years after winding up behind bars, Chesimard escaped. That was on November 2, 1979. She managed to live underground before being located in Cuba in 1984, where she'd been granted political asylum. Now aged 73, the escaped felon has been on the run for over 40 years and is thought to still be hiding out somewhere in Cuba. Back in 2005, the FBI increased the public reward. Any assistance in her capture was now worth $1 million. In the words of New Jersey State Police Superintendent, Chesimard was now 120 pounds of money. That reward was the largest placed on an individual in the history of New Jersey. Still, that number pales in comparison to the cash-on offer for this guy. His reputation is so violent that we can't even say his name. What we can say, though, is that information for his whereabouts comes with a sizable bounty of $5 million. He operated within international extremist groups in the Middle East, growing his long list of illegal criminal activity. The United States court indicted him on 53 counts, from extortion to money laundering and a heavy file of violent, sometimes gruesome crimes. Authorities declared caution for anyone trying to take him into custody, stating that he should be considered armed and dangerous. Despite this, he was an educated man. He previously worked as a university professor in several countries, even holding a PhD in banking and economics. Clearly, he was clever enough to dodge the FBI, because he's been sitting on the agency's most wanted list since November 27, 1995. Alas, the FBI can stop chasing. He passed away in June of 2020. Back to local soil, one man who's been on the FBI's most wanted list for over a decade and a half is Jason Derek Brown, or Greg Johnson, or Harlan Johnson, or John Brown, depending on whichever alias he's using on any given day. So what's his story? On November 29, 2004, Brown allegedly targeted an armored car outside a movie theater, taking out the guard on duty and fleeing with the money. Following the successful getaway, Brown became the 489th fugitive in history to be officially placed on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. In the eyes of the authorities, Jason had become a ghost. He'd moved from Vegas to Portland and even San Diego before going completely off the grid. In need of assistance from the public, agents offered a reward of up to $200,000 for information leading to his capture, and that reward was doubled back in 2013. As the perpetrator of a far more brutal crime, this man, Rafael Caro Quintero, was not only sought by the FBI, but also the DEA, and considering that he was responsible for taking out beloved DEA Special Agent Enrique Kiki Camarena back in 1985, they're not going to stop hunting for him anytime soon. Caro Quintero is widely considered one of the godfathers of illegal substance trafficking in Latin America and is still holding an active key leadership position within the Sinaloa cartel. An enormous reward is available for anyone who can provide information that leads to his arrest or conviction. How much exactly? According to the official FBI website, up to $20 million. That's one of the highest value rewards of anyone currently listed on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. The kingpin had actually already served 28 years of a 40-year prison term for his crimes, but a Mexican court ordered his release on August 9, 2013, and he's been a shadow ever since. An even larger reward is on the table for the capture of this man, Indian mobster and illegal substance dealer Ibrahim Dawood. His crime syndicate, known as D Company, makes almost 40% of its earnings from India, but its presence is spread wider across Asia, Europe, and even Africa. In addition to his ongoing smuggling and dealing empire, plus never-ending extortion and match-fixing, it's believed that Dawood was one of the key figureheads behind an attack in Bombay in the 1990s. Considering all of this, in 2011, with DEA collaboration and in conjunction with Indian intelligence, the FBI named him number 3 on the world's most 10 wanted fugitives. If you happen to turn him in, a $25 million paycheck awaits. 3 Indian students actually tried to take matters into their own hands. They ran away from school, motivated by the dream of leading a life of luxury with the reward money. They managed to make it from Bihar to Kolkata, before running out of money and realizing that their plan was near impossible. If they did catch him, in fact, if they'd caught any fugitive on a most wanted list, the money would come in droves. Just for a bit of background knowledge, in exchange for information which leads directly to the arrest of any one of the 10 most wanted fugitive list, the minimum reward is $100,000. Of course, the greater the threat, the higher the payout. You've all heard of El Chapo, right? After escaping from prison, the Mexican kingpin has a $3.8 million reward on his head, with local enforcement and U.S. authorities working alongside one another to bring the criminal mastermind down. But have you heard of Si Chi Lop? This man is widely considered the El Chapo of Asia. The ex-convict has moved between Macau, Canada, Hong Kong, and Taiwan in recent years, still unable to be tracked by authorities. Said to be shadowed by a cluster of Thai kickboxers, Si Chi Lop and his multinational crime syndicate dubbed The Company raked in revenue of between $8 and $18 billion in 2018 alone. and that was only from one substance. Evidently, there's big money at stake, and if the desire to catch him is anything like that of El Chapo, expect a reward in the millions as well. Usually we see national organizations publish the rewards, although not always. Sometimes the incentive stems directly from local police, as was the case when Australia's New South Wales Police Force announced a $1 million reward for information into the 4-decade-old attack of a Turkish diplomat and his bodyguard in Sydney. The initial reward was $250,000, yet after 4 decades of unsolved mystery, that number was quadrupled. Why? Because this was the first international politically motivated attack on Australian soil, and authorities are determined to close the case. Going back even further, Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow are pop culture and cinematic icons, but let's not forget that they're also arguably the most famous outlaws in history. Their never-ending crime spree labeled them as the most dangerous and most notorious criminals in the American Midwest, as they carried out violent bank robbery after violent bank robbery, hopping between states. The duo quickly found a target on their back. A $1,000 reward was announced for Clyde's capture, a man which the state legislature was calling the most dangerous desperado of the Middle West. Adjusted for inflation, that's close to $20,000 for anyone who could turn them in. Would you turn these people in for the reward, knowing that they might seek revenge? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to The Richest, and have a great day. Catch you next time.